Renee, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to try and take my my headset off, and then I'm going to test again.
Okay.
I'm having a few technical troubles at this end, so hang on just a sec.
Okay.
Let me know if you can hear me.
All right. I do not hear you if you're speaking.
Okay.
Okay, I hear you now.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah, you're a little quieter, but I can hear you.
Okay, let me just maybe do something with my volume. Is that better?
I think if you're up close to your computer, it should be able to pick up your voice fine for everyone to hear.
Yeah, I think I'm going to use the Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, I'm going to just stick to this.
Okay.
But I did freeze in the last meeting.
Yeah, you were cutting out and freezing and
Yeah, so I'm really not sure what the trouble is around here. So hopefully I won't have to hand the chair over to the vice chair for this meeting because he can't hear me.
it should be okay. If anything, maybe you just need to turn your video off because that can help with the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Ray.
I see you're not running yet. I read the story. Good story.
Yeah, thanks. Brittany did a nice job.
Similar to why I'm not running. I don't know if I can commit to another 4 years. At this age in my life.
Well, it's a big commitment, and you have to be all in, and I have a lot of things going on.
I agree. I got a lot of things going on too. So, yeah, well, that's good. You'll enjoy your family more and get you closer.
Well, and I'm hoping that I'll land something. I mean, you never know what the future is going to bring. It just doesn't have to be in public service.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely going back to work for sure.
Okay, got a couple of minutes. So we have Ken and Ray. Is Wes here?
Yes, he's just arrived.
Excellent, thanks. And the mayor, I guess, will be on in a sec. Okay, well, it is 1:30. So I'm going to call this meeting to order. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Community Growth and Infrastructure Standing Committee. attendance at the meeting is, well, we're missing the mayor unless she's come on, has she?
No, not yet.
Okay, so our attendance is Councillor Watkins, myself, Councillor Broadhead, and who are committee members. Ken Mackay is here. And am I missing any other councillors? I don't think so.
I think you have them all yet.
Okay, thank you for that. Welcome, everybody. I've had some technical difficulties today, so Councillor Watkins, I hope I don't have to hand the chair over to you, but because I was freezing in the last meeting that we had, so, but we'll carry on. Calling the meeting to order, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda that committee members need to make? If not, can I please have a motion to accept? Councillor Watkins, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Renee, are there any appointments? I don't have anything listed on mine.
No, there's no appointments.
Great. Thank you for that. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. I'm sure everybody had a chance to go through those. Any changes or omissions to the minutes? Councillor Bradhead, would you like to move those?
I would.
So moved. All right. All those in favor? That is carried. And moving to the next portion of the item or the agenda, which is the 10-year municipal RMR plan and budget. And I think that we have Ann Victor here to present to us.
So good afternoon, committee members. So this purpose of this agenda is to provide the committee members with a preliminary view of the 10-year municipal RMR capital plan for future consideration of approval for the 220 projects. So this is scheduled for council on June 8th. So this plan includes the capital initiatives that relate to maintaining current service levels that are required by life cycle plans and are considered a replacement of rehab of existing infrastructures, facilities, and equipment. For 222, the municipal RMR capital budget includes 29 projects equating to 23.3 million, of which is 45% is being invested in roads and other engineered structure, 27% in mobile and other equipment, and 24% in civic facilities. The 222 variance of 164,000 when compared to the prior year is the result of detailed review of life cycle and replacement plans, considering staff resources and capacity during project implementation, refined cost estimates, and new information. And of course, we have a philosophy of supporting the RMR needs and funding prior to growth. And based on these funding commitments of the 23.3 million allocated to pay-as-you-go reserves and grants, this leaves approximately 12 million in funding to be allocated to future capital growth requirements. It's important to note at this time that despite having funding available at this time, there's still a significant deficit in the city's infrastructure for future years, and that the continued recommendation to address this infrastructure deficit is coming to council in June for the continued support of that. So approval of the RMR provides administration with the ability to start preparatory work and on all the RFP, understanding that there's no spending to be spent until 223. And our next steps, of course, are for council members to submit any motions, any postponed amendments to the 10-year RMR plan by May 20th. And then administration will prepare backgrounders, and this will be presented to council at that June 8th meeting. So we have department representatives are in attendance to take any questions that the committee may have.
Thank you, Ann. Yeah, and the package, you were able to include all the project charters, so that was awesome for everybody to look at. So for today, committee members, it's just really a first look at the RMR charters, and maybe there's some questions that you want to ask of departments before you consider submitting a motion on May 20th. So I'll open it up now for questions and comments. Councillor Broadhead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thank you for the presentation. When I read the backgrounder, it sort of answered some of the questions that I had. Two questions. So when development occurs and after a period of time, the developer contributes assets to the community, roadways, that sort of thing, as a result of developing the land, does the tax generated by the surrounding area generally cover off the RMR for the contributed assets? Or are we incurring additional needs every time land is developed? I guess that's my question.
That's a great question, Councillor Broadhead. And in fact, it is true that each time we have contributed assets, that the cost increase to support those requirements. So that is one of the reasons that the replacement plans are requiring and costs are going up. So, and if anyone else has additions to add, that is something that we're looking at, putting charters specifically relating to addressing those components, but those historically they've been picked up in the life cycles, and that's why you've seen increases.
Okay, fair enough. I know Ray, you probably have a comment, but I'll get my second question in here, and then I can go away and take a look at this in depth. So on on page 13, you got the charters written there, or the dollar values. Some are in green and some are in black. Can you just define what green means? It might be there. If it is, I missed it, and I apologize. But
that's a good question. So the green is at one point we were highlighting to identify that those are funded through existing reserves and life cycles, replacement reserves. So that was just to identify that those were funded through those sources.
oh, okay. So what does that mean?
So the existing where we have reserves in place to fund our ongoing replacements. And that's where when they talk about the infrastructure deficit, that we don't have enough money in our current city reserves, that is what they were referring to. So we'll forecast out what the needs are based on these life cycles and make sure that we have the funding in that.
So if I look at this page here, then, so green is good and black is not fully funded. Is that right?
Green is coming from those life cycles reserves, correct? And then the black, it would indicate that it's coming from either the pay-as-you-go or grant funding. And sorry, usually we've noted it on the 10-year, so we'll make sure that note goes back on there.
Okay, well, like I say, it might have been there, but if it was, I missed it. So anyway, thank you for that.
That was a good question. It was a question that I had too. So Councillor Watkins.
Excuse me, my question, yeah, just relates to the fact that in the new areas, though, we're not doing any of the rehab RMR programs that are like ENG 002, 003, those kind of numbers, sidewalk replacement program. Those are all in existing areas or older areas, right? Not new areas, correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
Right. So the reason why the RMR costs are increasing when we add the new areas aren't because the costs are needed in those areas at this time right now. It's just because of the calculation that says that when you add a new area, you have to have a certain amount going towards RMR.
I can speak in regards to the transportation projects and whatnot, and really the RMR requests are relevant to the condition assessments and the state of infrastructure that exist in these areas, like typically in these older areas. On the finance side, in regards to the assets being taken on new, I think, there's greater review and opportunity that we're looking into the total cost of ownership, that we can have better representation and whatnot as we advance these kind of programs. But I don't know if on the finance side or from other areas there may be discussion around that.
In the new areas, we're looking at ways of also reducing repair and replacement and maintenance costs going forward. as opposed to what was in the old areas where we're encouraging costs.
Yeah, I think in a lot of areas we're looking at, from application of our design standards to our materials and different methods. I think there's opportunities that we look at potentially impacting and influencing for the better the life expectancy of our assets.
Okay, thank you. And just when you look at the hugest number is PW 031 municipal facilities repairs and renewals, which is a large category, $4.7 million. Is there anything from that can be reduced, or basically all those are required maintenance for the most part?
I can speak to that.
Yes.
Councillor Watkins, if needed. So the PW 031 is a life cycle cost. It's generated off of a report that started. So our building vertical assets typically just had a maintenance fund for each individual building. And so this was designed a few years back, prior to my time, but the Ameresco was a company we employed to look at all the life cycle in the buildings. So they developed an actual costing of aging out of assets in the buildings. So from there, that each building gets an investigation further to look at which of those life cycle components actually has to be repaired. So we're actually expending the full amount here for the next couple of years for St. Albert Place as well as Fountain Park Pool. Within that time, we're doing further billing investigations for the ones that were listed within the Ameresco reports.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Watkins, and welcome, Mayor Herron. We are on 6.1, Mayor Herron. We're just beginning to talk about the municipal RMR plan and budget. I had a specific question, page 59 in our package about, just gotta get there. Oh, was it page 59? Yeah, it was on page 59. It's around sidewalks. Under the comments and notes, the comments, funding for this charter will be used for the following tasks: new pedestrian crossing requests. Do those have anything to do with the yellow and white sidewalk painting, or are those just normal crosswalks?
Sorry, so that's our permanent road marking charter, I believe you're kind of referring to. And those now we've reviewed and kind of, I guess, piloted the use of the fluorescent material, and we're pulling back and stopping the use of that. So we're back to looking at standard material placement, which will reduce the overall cost for our maintenance and installation of new crossings as well.
Okay, so is that in the notes below? I had a big question, no more yellow crosswalks. The first note, it says these fluorescent markings have been eliminated due to the consideration of priority to place warming flashers versus road marking. So is that, so no more yellow crosswalks?
That is correct. The short answer is no more fluorescent road markings on crosswalks.
And you're satisfied that all of the traffic calming measures that we are doing elsewhere in the city is going to look after any potential, I mean, they were put there for traffic safety, were they not? And the pilot project has said there's other ways to do this in a better way. And so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that is correct. They were there as an opportunity when, at a time when we initiated it, the cost of the warning flashers were double that of today. And so it was a cost-effective measure that we applied to increase visibility and hopefully influence awareness of the crossings. Since that time, the costs of the warning flashers have come down substantially. And so we've advanced that program and pulled back, seeing the maintenance impacts and the benefit for the seasonal, all year round use of the flashers compared to a road marking that has some seasonal impacts. We're pulling back on those, and through the RMR charter for the Transportation Systems Management Program is where we're requesting funds to essentially improve pedestrian crossings with warning flashers.
Okay.
So through a separate charter.
Right. I think there's going to be a lot of happy people about the yellow crosswalks. My next question is actually on page 60 of, I think it's 60 of the package. No, it's not. Hang on. It has to do with the trail system, which is Project Charter ENGS 006 Multi-Use Trail Program. 85 kilometers of asphalt trails. And can you just explain when you do work on them? Is it when it's at fair, when it's at poor? When do you start your work on fixing trails?
Thank you.
Or-
So essentially when they reach a level of poor condition and we start to be impacted by, we target obviously higher safety influence deficiencies of the trail network. So if there's substantial cracking or kind of displacement where there could be high trip hazards and whatnot, similar to our sidewalk program, we kind of focus and prioritize different levels of deficiencies. And so when they reach that poor condition is when we start really targeting it to prioritize it in a broader RMR sense.
Okay, thanks. I have heard some people say we have 99 kilometers of trails, not 85. So is that 15 or 14 kilometers of non-asphalt trails, or is it that number is wrong?
There could be a difference in the actual treatment of the trail system itself.
Okay.
From our conditions, what we have is 85 on paved trails, which is what the RMR focuses on.
Okay, thank you for that. And then I guess I have just a process question. So councillors need to put any postponed motions, send any postponed motions back in by May 20th. So I'm trying to think of what a postponed motion might look like. Is that literally removing something from the 10-year RMR plan, or is it to adjust cost, or is it could it be anything? And maybe just to help councillors along. I don't know who wants to answer that.
Madam Chair, I got a question around that. I mean, here's a plan around repair, maintain, and replace. It's a scheduled program based on life cycle and repair maintenance. I'm wondering under what the rationale would be for a councillor to remove something.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with this.
Yeah,
So because it's there, it's work that has to be done. If it's not done, there could be safety issues or whatever. So and that's why I'm trying to figure out what a postponed motion might look like.
Okay.
Yeah. And but
That's a great question, Councillor Hanson. I agree. This is a scheduled replacement and maintenance of our current infrastructure, so there would be risk to deferring motions. I think it is just a process that we provide it to committee and provide the option for council or committee to first see it and then council to get backgrounders for information if they have questions or are concerned with that scheduled maintenance.
that's excellent. I appreciate that. And Councillor Watkins, you had your finger up?
Yes, I had some questions. I was just going to say about that, like I just had a general question, and maybe this is what Dean or to law even. In most cases, all the repair, maintenance, and replacement, like the potholes and the repaving, I know they're done to a certain standard, and we pick a level of okay, so it's got so many cracks, so we're going to fix that sidewalk section, or this road gets the asphalt so deteriorated, we're going to fix it. But there isn't really a legal requirement for any of the repair, maintenance, and replace. Is there? I guess with certain facilities like pools and things like that, there is a legal requirement to do that. But like, I mean, the requirement to fix a crack in a sidewalk, when we fix it and when we fix a pothole and how quick we fix it, are basically based on our level of service, right? Is that correct, or is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct. Essentially, we have to follow the policy that we set for ourselves, and our liability lies in not following the policy that we set for ourselves. And we have to have a policy about it. And once it's in place, we have to follow it. But yes, you're correct. we're not expected to immediately fix everything as soon as it's there. And even if we're aware of it, if it's part of our regular repair, maintain, replace cycle, there's possibilities of offsetting. But the answer is, you're correct. We have to have the policy set in place and we have to follow it. The liability for each specific occurrence, is fact specific, but generally it's fair to say that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think that was my major question. So I'm just trying to think about a way to reduce costs on RMR, and really it has to boil down to level of service. Like, I know you can't let the boiler or whatever, the thing at Service Place go too long because it could blow up or something like that, but most other things are some of those things may be associated with a level of service, like you say, and a policy in place. So, okay, thank you.
That's great. Oh, sorry, Councillor Mackay. Go ahead.
No, don't be sorry. It's no problem. Committee members first. I was curious, maybe just a follow up to Councillor Watkin's question. So the back lane program, what standard do we replace our back lanes in our older areas? Are they gravel or are they asphalt? What is the standard?
So currently we're putting them in as a road product, and so asphalt product, and to a higher, compared to previous design, a little bit higher structure with reconstructs that are occurring right now through the RMR project, which is anticipated to give greater life expectancy.
Are they, and I apologize, I haven't driven down one of the back lanes in a long time in our older neighborhoods. Is there stormwater access in those, like manhole covers, or like, I guess stormwater was the term I was looking for?
No, a lot of our laneways right now are utilizing just surface drainage for storm management. Where we're seeing and what the program has been influenced by is actually third-party utilities, where we're having to coordinate and address depth of placement and essentially relocate some of the third-party utilities.
And just what would that be, like a power pole, or what would that be?
Yeah, existing power ATCO as well. And so we're having to work with them and collaborate and just coordinate, and which is influencing our schedule.
Yeah, I saw that. I was also amazed, actually, and I didn't realize the number of bridge structures we have in our community. That was a very useful graphic. I mean, obviously I didn't count culverts. Been a while since I've been in one, but the wooden bridges and the like was amazing. How many bridges we would actually have to maintain. Probably the bigger concern, though, is the overpasses and maybe some of the pedestrian bridges. Is there any of our current overpasses or pedestrian bridges in a level that we would have to require some sort of replacement sooner than another one?
No, from current most up-to-date condition assessments, those structures are sitting very well. There's 3 candidate structures that are not associated with like overpasses or to that degree. And we'll continue to perform our annual condition assessments to make sure that we're monitoring and documenting that, and then capture any type of substantial work well in advance. Usually we can, subject to any emergent type of failure or anything. For the most part, our condition assessments should highlight any forthcoming work that we can plan accordingly and identify in our RMR projects.
If we have to replace a wooden bridge, do we use a different material than wood? Like, or is it always a wood for a wood replacement?
It's hard to say what we would do. No, to be quite honest, it's I think, again, looking at the structure and subject to more, depending on what is recommended in actual remedial actions, we look at the most cost-effective and efficient way to address whatever concerns exist.
Okay, I just, in case something needed, would we just replace it is all, or would we look at other opportunities? And my last question is around the decommissioning of Fire Hall number 1. Is that just a ballpark figure around 852,500, or we don't know what that whole remediation of that site will involve or what potentially the building will be. Is that just a ballpark guess? Going once?
Anyone want to answer that?
Well, I'll take a crack at it, I guess. I don't know what class of estimate it would be at, but we use the class D, C, B type estimating. So I'm not sure what plus or minus that is on that particular project. But
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, I can imagine being as it was built in 1962, it's going to have asbestos and any other problems. I don't know what was in there being in the past in relation to, I don't know whether we used to refuel our units there or whatever, if there's potentially ground contamination. So, I mean, potentially it could be a big cost, right?
yeah, and typically the way those are put out is there's a base cost for the building removal and all that. And then you know, depending on what engineering feels may be there, they'll set up contingencies for asbestos, for soil contamination, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess in relation to how long it could sit surplus for the city, it could be a number of years then, correct? I mean, by the time you do the studies and get the quotes for whatever we decide to do with it, right? I just see it as
There's different ways to go on it. You can do it faster, you can do it slow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just looking at 2022 and I'm just thinking, you know, some of the potential needs, and I don't know if we'd ever be able to buy or sell it off just as is, but just something that was more of interest to me. Anyways, those are my questions. Thanks. I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I have a question around the life cycle reserves, which are the green ones, as you said. What determines, like looking at Culture 001 Arden Theatre Life Cycle Plan, so there's a reserve for that. But why wouldn't the one below it be under reserve? What's the determination there?
So the determination of which has reserves is where we have asset groupings that we have listed. And of course, we know through the asset management program that there still is things that need to get added on. Like when Jay Mason was referring to the buildings, that was when we were adding the life cycle of the buildings. So we know the actual replacements. We don't have a life cycle for the actual buildings themselves. That's something that we're determining through as we develop that asset program. But the goal of that is that we would have for all our assets in our scheduled life cycle, we'd have listings, and then we would have a reserve that would fund the replacement of those. So I'm just looking at which one were you referring to that below it that didn't have one?
With the one under the Arden Theatre Life Cycle Plan, that one's Culture 001, but then under Culture 023 is the Visual Arts Studio Life Cycle. And it seems to me, because it's part of St. Albert Place, those kinds of things would be grouped together. But you know, my groupings could be different than your groupings, and so I just wondered why it wasn't under some kind of a reserve, and why it isn't green, basically. But yeah, I understand that you're in the process of really getting through that asset planning process, and that will fit some of our projects into certain boxes where life cycle reserves should look after that eventually.
And Elizabeth might have more to speak to in regards to why those assets aren't in currently on a life cycle too. I can pass it to her.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Sure, thank you. To answer the question, so the Arden Theatre life cycle was it's been an approved life cycle for a period of time, and then and covered through the capital replacement plan. So it's an extra fee on tickets that goes into the reserve. However, the Visual Arts Studios, when we were reviewing the assets within those studios in St. Albert Place, we identified that the infrastructure in those spaces were not included in any other asset plans, either for St. Albert Place through Public Works or within existing cultural services plans. So we introduced that visual art studios life cycle in 2014. And so it did not get assigned to a reserve at that point.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Katrina, I see you popped on. Did you want to add to that?
No, Elizabeth, I think covered that really well. So thank you.
Okay, great. So councillors, committee members, we have 3 recommendations for the 10-year municipal RMR plan and budget. I see that there are no other questions. So would anyone care to move those 3 recommendations?
Madam Chair, can I ask just one other question? I
Yes.
apologize. I forgot this one.
Sure, go ahead.
I apologize. It just picks up on something we talked about in relation to how the workplace is going to be changing potentially over the next few years. I mean, certainly the pandemic has caused a great upheaval in remote office access. I guess it's an IT question, and I'm just basically wondering, are we planning for that? Are we planning for the expanded use of employees working at home or off-site? Is there a way? Oh, hi, Joanne. Nice to see you. Nice seeing you again.
You too.
But I'm just kind of curious in relation if we are looking at what's the impact going forward to the new workplace?
So certainly I can answer that question, and it's good to see you again, Ken. We are currently actually just taking a look at what needs to change in terms of our VPN access, so the way that we actually connect to our network. And as well, we're taking a look at how we access our applications. Some of you may or may not be aware that it has been difficult over the last year to access some of our larger business systems, such as our finance system. So we're going to be taking a look at how we can enhance the virtualization of those applications. That's in the immediate term. So we'll be actually taking a look at that and planning that out in the next couple of months to see what it all is involved in that in terms of cost. The other thing, of course, that we're looking at for much larger landscape, if you will, is the movement of our business applications to the cloud. So we're in the process, and part of our work plan actually for 2022 to 2024 is to take a look at what we want to have as a strategy for that and what kind of approach we want to take. Of course, we have back in 2015 moved our Office applications to the cloud in implementing Office 365. So I would say in short, we're looking at ways to virtualize our existing applications as well as looking at that cloud strategy going forward.
Thank you.
That all you have?
Yeah, I do. I apologize for missing that one.
That's okay. So any last questions before I accept somebody's read-in of the recommendations? Thank you. Who would like to do that?
Good.
Councillor Watkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Second. I'll move that the Community Growth and Infrastructure Standing Committee recommend to Council that the number 1, the 10-year municipal RMR capital plan provided as an attachment to the May 10th, 2021 agenda report entitled 10-year municipal RMR capital plan be received as information. 2, that council members submit any proposed motions to propose amendments to the 10-year municipal RMR capital plan to administration by May 20th, 2021. And 3, that administration prepare backgrounders for proposed changes to the 10-year municipal RMR capital plan and present to council at the June 8th, 2021 meeting for consideration of approval.
Okay, thank you for that. And I accept those recommendations. Any opening remarks?
Madam Chair, these are these are very important things to look at. RMR is ever increasing every year in our municipality. It's something that most municipalities across the country are behind on, and it's playing a game of catch up to try to keep up with these things. Reductions or any kind of changes that we try to make in these, we must have a hard and long look at them, whether reducing repair and maintenance of things are going to cost us more money in the long run or not. Like, so we have to kind of weigh that, and we also have to look at the level of standards that we do these repair and maintenance at, and if we're required to do them, or if we can change those standards in some way. So I'm more than happy to move it, and I look forward to any motions or amendments that council may have to the plan, and look forward to discussing it with all of council at the June meeting.
Thank you for that. Any other comments? Councillor Broadhead and then Mayor Herron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The interesting thing here is that the city is starting to really get on top of the overall life cycle costing of our assets and planning accordingly. And it's up to council to fund it. And therein lies the challenge before us, I think. And so I'm hopeful if something comes up that the administration sees that they could defer, that they would let us know. But other than that, from my perspective, this is a plan presented by our professional employees, and it would be interesting to know the rationale for a councillor submitting a reduction to this plan. Yeah, those are my comments, Madam.
Thank you for that. Well said. That would be my question too. So, Mayor Herron.
There will be no motions coming from me. So, you know, I always believe this plan is really something that council should not be touching, except for maybe, as Ray pointed out earlier, from a standards level. I remember when West was first elected, he changed our life cycle of bus replacements from 15 to 18 years. And that was a standard thing, not through the RMR. So those are the kind of strategic conversations council should be having, but super happy to see this. I think Councillor Len Bracco would have been super pleased to see the push on assets. He was a big believer in life cycle maintenance and probably made motions before my time to start some of these that are already in green. And as we add more assets to the community, I really strongly believe our funding formula for capital probably needs to increase as our assets increase. And that's not happening right now. And I think we really need to have that conversation moving forward. Right now, we just have that 1.5%. That's kind of a random number, but I think it should actually be attached to the asset base. But for future conversations, this is, for me, just a checkbox so that we can get it done earlier, get the RFPs out earlier and start the work as soon as January 1st of 22 rolls around.
Yeah, that's good. And I would just say early on in my term, I took asset management planning course with the AUMA, and I found it most fascinating. We're not alone in trying to tackle this, and you can't have crumbling infrastructure simply from a safety point of view. So it really is important for us to get ahead of this to the extent that we can. And I'm really hopeful that the asset management program that you are all working on is going to help us with keeping up with our RMR. So that is it for me. Anything to close, Councillor Watkins?
Yeah, once again, municipalities were in a bit of a financial battle here against RMR costs. And so we have to carefully look at them. We're also in a kind of a constant battle with trying to reduce costs and keep taxes low and increase demands and COVID and all the other challenges that we're facing. So it's really important that we look at all these costs carefully. But, I'm kind of, what's the old thing? A pound of something, prevention is worth an ounce of cure or something like that. So I think we have to carefully look at the money we're spending on this, and if it's needed, and if it's good, if it's dollars well spent to prevent from causing more damage in the future, then we should be spending it. We shouldn't be spending it based on, some really, really super high service level, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm not saying things are spent on that basis, just we have to be careful and consider that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Call for the vote. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you for that. I think Councillor Mackay was trying to say that you had that backwards, Councillor Watkins. But we know what you were trying to say.
I know, but not as old as Councillor Mackay. He probably invented that one.
So that is part one. We're going to go through the same exercise, but probably a little bit more efficiently on the second one here when we move to the 10-year utility RMR plan and budget. And did you have more to present to us? Or?
Yeah, I'll just have a short presentation. It's basically the same process and everything as municipal side, but just a little bit added is that the city's 10-year utility capital plan has a direct impact on the supplementary capital fee portion of the utility rates. So you can understand that by comparing the previous 10-year capital plan to this year's proposed 10-year plan. The 10-year variance is a decrease of 1.7 million when it's detailed in the attachment, and that's a result of a detailed review of the life cycle replacement plans and refined cost estimates and looking at the long-term requirements. Taking that into consideration, over the 145 million in assets, that is still nominal impacts on the fees, and we better understand that when we go and approve the operating impacts in December. So for 2022, the capital utility budget includes 10 projects totaling 16.6 million, and the next steps are all the same. And those are great questions and comments from the committee. We do provide the opportunity for postponed motions and amendments because this is the first piecing out of that 22 budget. So we want to remain consistent with the opportunity for council to have that opportunity, but it is great questions and comments that it is the repair and replacement of existing infrastructure. So that's harder to do. And then just for a transparency piece too. So we have department representatives on to take any questions.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to anticipate that you probably won't have as many. But Councillor Broadhead, Watkins, Mackay, or Mayor Herron, do you have any comments or questions around the 10-year RMR utility capital plan? No. It doesn't look like it.
Other than the number going down, it was always good to see, even though it was nominal, right?
Yeah. That's good.
You want me to make a motion?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, all right. That the Community Growth and Infrastructure Standing Committee recommend to Council that one, the 10-year utility RMR capital plan provided as an attachment for the May 10th, 2021 agenda report titled 10-year utility RMR capital plan be received as information. Number two, that council members submit any motions for proposed amendments to the 10-year utility RMR plan to administration by May 20th, 2021. And finally, number three, that administration prepare backgrounders for proposed changes to the 10-year utility RMR plan and present to council at the June 8th, 2021 meeting for consideration of approval.
I'll accept those. Any opening comments, Mayor?
No, I have actually nothing to add.
Great. Anybody else? Nope. Okay, well, thank you to the team for putting the plan together for us.
Call for the vote.
And well, those are, I'm just saying my comments as chair.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were adjourning the meeting.
No, I just was, no, I wanted to thank them for putting it out and giving us all the project charters to read through as well. It always gives us a better sense of the good work that's getting done. So appreciate that. And I will now call for the vote. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 2:14.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.